Hello, and now that we are headed towards our first major assessment grade of the semester, the 100 points for your rhetorical analysis final submission, wanted to check in and kind of provide some reminders and some clarifications. So remember, if you need any help on a one-on-one level or you'd like some face-to-face time, if you look at the syllabus, there is a link to a Google Meet on Wednesday nights from 7 to 7:30. Those are my office hours. Remember, you can always email me. Emailing is in an asynchronous online class the equivalent of raising your hand. So you're not bothering me to reach out with a question, a concern, asking for clarification on an assignment. Being proactive is great because you can sometimes get ahead of something that might cost you some points down the road and get it cleared away, squared away, so that you have a better understanding of what you need to do for an assignment, or while you're working on an essay, if you're looking through my feedback and you want a little clarification on what that actually means, that would be great. So don't hesitate to do that. Just to kind of put the pieces together here, as we are finishing up the rhetorical analysis, just to give you an idea of the progression of the class. So the rhetorical analysis, looking at the Ted Chiang and the Barbara Ehrenreich essay, it's taking a mentor text like those two are and practicing the art, because there really is an art and a skill of rhetorical analysis. So breaking down someone else's text, a published professional writer, to see what moves they make. Now, why is that helpful other than just the task itself? Because I want you to see that there's some kind of outside benefit to just breaking something apart. You are breaking it apart so that you can look at what a published professional writer does, the moves they make, the logical appeals, how they build their credibility. Some have credibility just on their own background, their expertise in the field, and then others are writing about topics they're not experts at, and so they build their credibility on the backs of the more knowledgeable others that they quote from and cite. And that's really where we're at, as students, and I as an English teacher, unless I'm writing about matters of pedagogy or English writing, I'm not really an expert. So I might have the tools as a writer to write proficiently or effectively or sophisticatedly about something, but I don't really have the credibility about some of the topics I might write about if I was a journalist or writing an editorial. So I establish my credibility on the backs of the more knowledgeable others that I would quote from or I would cite. And that's where you're at, because, as a student, you're not yet an expert in your field. And so you might choose to write about something for your argumentative essay that you're going to do some research, and it has to be credible, and it's going to establish your own credibility on the topic. Now, what also could you transfer from the rhetorical analysis? So those are logical appeals, right? But also the incorporation of emotional appeals. How do you do that? How much weight? How do you balance that? That's something that I had you looking at in some of the assignments. You're also going to consider your audience, your purpose, which is spelled out because it's an argumentative research essay. So you're going to try to be persuasive. You're going to try to convince your audience. You're going to provide a anticipate a counter argument so that your reader doesn't walk away with something, some kind of itch in their brain that you haven't scratched yet. You also can look at the finer line by line details. So some of the rhetorical techniques, if you look at the handout, you've got the foundational four, like the purpose, audience, logical, emotional appeals, the credibility. But then you have things that are more at the sentence level that show some of the moves that people make for emphasis. So when you get to that level, that's kind of you kind of intuitively develop, that's what you're practicing. So some people, they do it while they write. The more that they write, the more they incorporate things into their writing. But in terms of, your revision and your editing, you can have an idea like, okay, I see the way that Barbara Ehrenreich at the end of her essay really nails down her argumentative stance. And she does that by bringing emphasis to her specific idea that she wants to leave the reader with. Another writer that I sometimes use in classes is Pamela Paul, who writes for the New York Times, and she writes on a lot of different topics, and that's when we talk about credibility, because as a journalist, she's just establishing her credibility on the backs of the more credible others that she cites from. But she often, at the end of her editorials for the New York Times, will nail down her main idea with an aphora, parallel structure, so repeating words and phrases at the beginning of sentences, clauses, phrases, to bring the reader's attention, to highlight what she wants them to take away. So those are things that, we're practicing. So the rhetorical analysis is first, so that you can get an idea of what are these things that go into making an effective and persuasive piece of writing. Then I'm going to write a piece of hopefully effective, persuasive writing, and I'm going to establish my credibility on the backs of more knowledgeable others. And then the multimodal project is taking that argument and trying to use different modes of communication outside of just the written word to broaden your reach in our 21st century age. So how can I take my argument from the paper and use some of these technologies to broaden the reach so that I'm actually more effective in persuading more people? So that is the range of the class. That's the reason behind all the different moves and assignments that you're being asked to make. And one of the reasons, as we finish up this, conversation here, I just want to point out that all the assignments have examples and samples, like the rhetorical analysis. There is a sample essay that I've provided. There's the rhetorical techniques handout. There's all the work that you're doing week to week on the, there is the Nancy Mayer's Google Slides for her essay. There's the Barbara Ehrenreich breakdown that I provided in the announcements. And there's a sample argumentative essay. There are sample components of the multimodal project. So my hope is that you have all the tools at your disposal to understand what the assignments are, to do the best job that you can in producing pieces that show your growth as a writer and thinker in this class. So as we move forward, just wanted to check in now that we're through the draft and the self-review. So now you have my comments, you have your own thinking about your piece. If you worked through that self-review, you're seeing the different components that make an effective and sophisticated rhetorical analysis. And I can tell by the reflections that I've read so far, which is number 16, that you guys are finding it meaningful, that walking yourself through your draft is showing you the things in a concrete fashion that you're going to need to change in order to earn, to maximize the points that you earn on the final submission. So good luck. Reach out if you need me. Use my office hours if you'd like to talk face to face, and keep working.